Take off the whole red Balisier uniform, Pearce. The headline gives you away. An editorial by Professor Wall Street. Pearce Robinson is at it again. To his credit, his post does report that the Johnson-Carroll hearing opened with Senator Jim Risch praising Trinidad and Tobago's cooperation in the U.S. operation that led to the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. So he cannot be accused of hiding it outright. But look at what he did with it. That credit a sitting government thanked by the chairman of the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee for its role in a major hemispheric operation. He demoted to a single throwaway line. And then he crowned the whole post with a headline that screams only the negatives. Trump nominee refuses to call Trinidad and Tobago government stable, flags radicalization, narco-trafficking, and illegal migration. That is the propagandist's real craft, not always the outright lie, but the framing. He knows most people read the headline and never the body, and he built the headline to wound Kamala while burying the praise where few will look. This is not truth spoken to power. It is spin in fancy dress, and the dress has grown. No longer just the red P&M Balisier tutu, but the Balisier underwear, the Balisier sunglasses, the Balisier pallet man slippers, and now the Balisier bandana, and full Balisier jersey too. Here are 10 reasons why Pearce's whole Balisier uniform needs to come off. 1. His headline buries the very news the hearing led with. The session opened with Senator Risch crediting Trinidad and Tobago. That is the single most remarkable thing to come out of the hearing. Public thanks from the U.S. Senate for the Kamala government's role in capturing Maduro. Where is it in his headline? Nowhere. He leads instead with refuses to call government stable. He acknowledged the credit in one sentence and then framed the entire post as if it never happened. Proportion is everything, and his proportion is pure party. 2. He treats routine diplomatic caution as a verdict. A nominee at a confirmation hearing declining to grade a foreign government's stability is the most ordinary thing in Washington. Nominees hedge on far friendlier allies every week. It is standard practice, not a bombshell. Robinson elevates a boilerplate non-answer into the centerpiece of his headline because nominee gives cautious non-answer, doesn't wound Kamala, and refuses to call government stable does. 3. He spins an America First nominee's standard posture into a personal rebuke. Read Johnson-Carroll's own words, which Robinson references. She pledged to deepen cooperation with Trinidad and Tobago against narco-trafficking, to promote lawful and orderly migration, and to place American sovereignty, borders, resources, and national interests first. That final phrase is the tell. Her caution is the caution of someone whose job is to represent the United States, not to handle endorsements of foreign governments. Robinson recasts an ordinary America First posture as a slap at Kamala. It is nothing of the kind. 4. He hangs decades-old problems on a young government. Radicalization, our ISIS recruitment record, the drug trade and migration flows are not the creation of a government that returned to office in May 2025. Trinidad and Tobago's foreign fighter notoriety drew international attention years ago, and narco-trafficking and migration have festered across multiple administrations. Framing these as fresh indictments of Kamala is a con that relies on the reader having no memory. 5. His own headline convicts his own party. Read what he chose to broadcast. Flags radicalization, narco-trafficking, and illegal migration. Now ask when those three things actually took root. Trinidad and Tobago's ISIS recruitment notoriety, among the highest per capita foreign fighter flows in the Western Hemisphere, exploded and drew global headlines during the PNM's 2015 to 2025 decade. The drug transshipment and illegal migration pressures deepened across those very same 10 years on Keith Rowley's watch. So the nominee's serious security concerns are in large part a description of the mess the PNM presided over. Robinson is holding up a list of his own party's failures and pointing it at Kamla. Where were his alarmed posts for the 10 years these problems were metastasizing under the PNM? Silent. A concern that materializes only when the UNC takes office is not a concern. It is a weapon painted red. 6. His emphasis is dictated by party, not by fact. Ask the honest question. Had a PNM government earned Senator Risch's public credit for the Maduro operation, would that have been a one-line afterthought or Robinson's blazing headline? You know the answer. The very same set of facts would have been framed as a national triumph if his side were in office. That is the essence of spin. Same facts, opposite treatment, decided entirely by jersey color. 7. His problem above all is the size of his own ego. Pearce Robinson genuinely believes he is the brightest bulb in the box. Picture the box, 12 bulbs, 11 rated at 50 watts, and Pearce convinced he alone is the 1,000 watt. He is so sure of his own brilliance that it never crosses his mind to ask whether his framing would survive being applied to his own side. A man that impressed with himself never audits his own hypocrisy, because in his mind, he doesn't have any. 8. He mistakes his own bias for objective analysis. Robinson presents his output as sober, disinterested examination. But this is a man who reportedly believes that when he sits on the toilet, he produces flowers and perfume. That is the level of his self-regard. When a man thinks that highly of himself, he cannot tell the difference between fair reporting and a partisan hit, because he assumes everything he produces must be sweet-smelling by definition. The country can smell the difference even when he can't. 9. He weaponizes proportion, which is subtler than a lie and just as dishonest. Robinson will defend himself by saying every fact in his post is accurate, and he is largely right. But honesty is not only about which facts you include, it is about which you elevate and which you bury. He gave the criticism a headline and the credit a footnote. Selective emphasis is how a skilled propagandist misleads while keeping his hands technically clean. 10. This is the pattern, not the exception. The tariff post buried the fact that Trinidad and Tobago negotiated its rate down. The age post buried the fact that his own former leader is older than Kamla. Now the hearing post reduces the U.S. Senate's credit to the Kamla government to a single line beneath an all-negative headline. It is the same move every time. Find the angle that wounds Kamla, shrink every fact that complicates it, and frame the rest as concern. Once you see the pattern, everything Robinson writes against the UNC government must be read with a heavy pinch of red Balisier salt. In conclusion, so here is the plain truth, one more time. The Johnson-Carroll hearing was not the humiliation Robinson's headline pretends. It opened with the chairman of the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee thanking Trinidad and Tobago for its role in capturing Nicolas Maduro, and it featured an America First nominee pledging to deepen cooperation with our country. Robinson reported the praise. One must give him that. But he demoted it to a sentence and built his headline entirely out of the criticism, because only the criticism could be turned into a stick to beat Kamla. And here is the richest irony of all. The very evils his headline shouts about, radicalization, narco-trafficking, illegal migration, are problems that took root
and festered under his own P&M government from 2015 to 2025. He is brandishing the wreckage of his own party's decade in office as though it were Kamala's doing. That is not the outright lie of a crude propagandist. It is the subtler dishonesty of a skilled one, technically accurate, deliberately unbalanced, and blind to the mirror. And Pearce, the outfit is now complete. The red Balisier tutu, the Balisier underwear, the Balisier sunglasses, the Balisier pallet man slippers, the Balisier bandana and the Balisier jersey, the whole uniform. Take all of it off. Climb down off the 1,000-watt pedestal. And until you frame the good and the bad about your own country with the same honest proportion, flowers, perfume, ego and all, the nation is entitled to read every word you write with a heavy pinch of red Balisier salt. Robinson continues to echo the words of P&M Chairman Marvelous Marvin Gonzalez. Every member of the P&M is a propagandist of the P&M